Yeah, 3 decades deep. From a young devil dog on post, learn to read
I
the
did
card.
some research as a result of a family member being in custody right now. And this family member, he's my brother. He served in the military, in the army, and he was exposed to multiple IED blasts. Fought in several very famous battles in Iraq, Al Nazariya, and a couple other intense battles at the peak of 2003, 2004. And another thing is that he was stop lost or deployed several times after being a casualty of IEDs. The military, the army didn't give a shit, and they kept sending him back. Now he's dealing with a lot of issues, especially in the justice system. And some things I've learned in the past 24 hours. There's approximately 18 million veterans. Of those 18 million, over 180,000 U.S. military veterans are involved or in custody at a detention or a prison program. Of that 180,000, more than 61% of those veterans are suffering from PTSD. And when I say suffering is that they have encountered serious situations in combat, saw the loss of life of friends, they've lost limbs, body parts, they've been exposed to explosions, and there's a lot of bad things going on in their soul, in their mind, and they're getting flagged. They're getting caught up in these things with civilians, and I'll say it with civilians is because a lot of civilians do not know how to interact with veterans. And you know what? For the most part, most civilians are weak people. They are. The military veterans are that 1% of the population that are strong, that were able to accomplish getting through boot camp and have a backbone. And most civilians don't. Most civilians they're something different. They're a different type of species. And so what's going on with my brother is that he keeps getting caught up in these situations. Like for instance, a lot of morality situations when it comes to his PTSD. He's big about protecting his children and standing up for what's right and not conceding or being subjugated by law enforcement or by anyone. And civilians can't accept that. They, especially, I hate to say it, but most law enforcement officers who are not military veterans are scared of military veterans because most of them, they wanted to join the army or they wanted to be in the military, but they just didn't cut the muster. And they barely made it through that police academy they went through. And you can see it in their behavior. You can see how their abusive manner, how they automatically jump the gun, how they respond off the cuff with things. And we're seeing this around the country. So it's not like it's something new. I'm just bringing up the facts that here we have a situation where, like, for instance, I reached out to the correctional professionals and members of the justice team that are dealing with my brother's situation, and they wanted to bring up the fact that they have better programs and they have mental health and they have medical programs, but I'm finding out that it's not true. They're saying these things, they're not lying, but what they're trying to embellish the fact or make their situation shining it up politically because they don't want to accept the fact that they don't have the resources in order to help veterans who are involved in justice processes. And nothing to take away from them. Maybe they are putting the best effort they can, considering the fact that most systems, most American justice systems, don't give two shits about corrections. Corrections is the dumping ground, and correctional officers, usually in most instances don't get the resources that other law enforcement organizations get in the United States. So where I'm going with this is that 180,000 veterans and 61% of them have PTSD issues. I gotta say one thing for sure, that the VA Veterans Affairs did reach out back to me and said that they were willing to work with that county jail facility and my brother in order to help provide the resources to him with the issues that he's dealing with. That doesn't negate the fact that if you're caught up in a situation where you're getting arrested, you did something wrong. Now, probably didn't do something wrong as far as culpability of guilt with reference to probable cause for an arrest, but something you did was out of step that may have instigated or escalated the situation. And like I said, most law enforcement officials, it's as soon as they see that, I don't know how to explain it to you. They as soon as they see something where they feel that that person is being non-compliant, or that the person is not following along with what their direction is, they're gonna escalate, and it's how it works. If you are experienced law enforcement officer like myself, you would know. Hey, you know what? And I've been in these situations where I got pulled over, and I'm coming across a police officer or at that time it was a state trooper. And it was once or twice with state troopers, and the state trooper was hoping, or you could see that person they're wanting to escalate. And I'm like, look, I put my hands up. I say, look, you're the boss. You tell me what you want me to do. And that person didn't know I'm experienced, a retired law enforcement officer. So they're caught off guard because there's compliance. There's no reason for argument. I'm not necessarily confessing to something, but I'm not challenging them. And so that takes the fight off the table. And it's unfortunate, but most veterans don't do that. Most veterans want to win the fight. They want to win the argument. They want to confront things that they believe is not right or unjustly. And that's where this escalation crap comes, especially with veterans that are suffering from PTSD. They get that tunnel vision, and they don't see that these people that they're dealing with don't see them for the sacrifices that they've done, the things that they've gone through to serve this country. They see them as a threat. Most, especially non-veteran law enforcement officers, are unclipping their gun holster. They're assuming a stance, and veterans know what that stance is, and so they're reacting most times with the mouth, with what their perception is, and so it just makes things worse. So why am I bringing this stuff up? Is that I've been working on a few projects with you guys. I've shared other information, but if you're operating a jail, go accept that free resource. If you need resources for veterans in your population, reach out to the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're a director of prisons, meet with the regional directors for the VISNs, the VISN, the Veterans Networks in your region, in order to accommodate and acquire those free resources so you can deal with issues that's going on with your veteran population in your jails. And it helps when you're going to have that 90-day or 180-day report with reference to recidivism efforts, that you can produce true facts with reference to your efforts dealing with veteran issues, meeting the needs of the veteran population in your detention programs. Of course, I'm being selfish. I'm sharing this as well because of my brother is currently in custody. I actually talked to him a lot about this podcast before he was incarcerated. And, I love him a lot and I care about him. And I think that we, all Americans, should understand that, for veterans that have been in big battles like in Iraq, the battle didn't end when they came back to the U.S. It's still in there. It's still in them. They've seen things that can't be unseen. And I won't say that we're going to drop our guard and completely be to a point where we let them get away with crime. But at the same point, we need to understand that the criminal justice system, jails, for instance, may not always be the remedy or how to resolve the issues that they're dealing with. And so, especially if you're a non-military veteran, you have to understand the fact that their mind, their perception, the things that are going through them as far as their experiences are not the same as yours. And in most cases, they are, I would say, superhuman, because they're dealing with things that would cause most civilians to be locked up in a mental health place. And these people are walking, talking, and just doing regular things as veterans that most civilians can't handle. Talk to you guys soon, and I'm looking forward to your input.
3 decades deep. From a young devil dog on post, learned to read the yard. Then the BOP fed time where the politics hit different hard. Went tribal with the BIA, understood a different set of keys. Flipped to private equity, making commas from the felonies. Saw every hustle, every angle, every power trip they tried. After a while as warden, there was nowhere left to hide. I was the real shot caller.